Thank you so much. Hello, welcome. My name is Alicia G. I'm a speech language pathologist and a proud member of Healthcare Workers for Palestine, Twin Cities, and national. We're very. Thank you. And I'll be introducing our brilliant artists and educators this evening. Just a few pieces of housekeeping. There is one gender-neutral back room behind us in the hallway, just kind of right across from that back door. And then two more downstairs. There are 3 prayer rugs in the birch room. You can access that downstairs by taking the stairs in the behind our room. Take those stairs straight down to the right. You can find that room. We will be requesting that masking remain throughout the event. Of course, this is okay to remove for food or when speaking here in the front, as you're able. And then please note the tables behind us with brilliant educational materials that we've accumulated from various groups and organizations, and some New York war crimes, healthcare workers editions. Please feel free to grab some. There's more where that came from. We will be having photography today. Thank you, Brooke, in the black hat. We appreciate you. If you would wish to not be photographed, please just let Brooke know at some point before the end of the evening, and she'll know that. And of course, this is a locked building, so if you know somebody's waiting to get in here, please let us know, and we'll send someone down to open up the building. Next up, we're going to introduce Ray from Healthcare Workers for Palestine, who will read a land acknowledgement written by Jessica Interno. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. So this was written in October of 2023, and it's been modified just slightly because the location is different. So we gather today in Minnesota Makoche, the ancestral homeland of the Dakota people. We gather a few miles from Hahawakpa, the river of the falls. A bit further downriver is Bidote, where the 2 waters come together, a place that for many Dakota people is a site of creation. We gather today on land that the United States stole from the Dakota by the 1851 Treaty of Mendota. With that treaty and the companion treaty of the Traverse des Sioux, the U.S. removed all the Dakota from their homeland and paid for land with promises. The U.S. promised it would make treaty payments in exchange for taking the Dakota homeland. It broke that promise. The U.S. hello? Sorry. The U.S. promised the Dakota that it would supply food in exchange for taking the Dakota homeland. It broke that promise. The U.S. promised the Dakota that if they moved to a narrow strip of land 20 miles by 70 miles long, they would be safe from their occupiers forever. It broke that promise. Starvation came, and when the Dakota rose up, pushed back, fought for their rights as humans, fought for their lives, fought for the lives of their children, the United States rounded up the Dakota people. It ordered them out of the narrow strip where it had promised safety. It paraded 1,658 non-combatants by foot in November to the place we call Fort Snelling, the place the Dakota call Bidote. It did not matter to the United States whether the Dakota lived or died. The cruelty was the point. The women, the children, the elders, and babies who survived the march, the U.S. imprisoned them in a concentration camp at Bidote, just downriver from here. 300 more non-combatants, elders, children's babies died that winter. If you stand there today in the shadow of the fort's walls, you can feel the weight of their deaths. You can feel a tear in the universe. That's the thing about war crimes. If you can't undo them, I can't undo them. My child and hers after can't undo them. When we stand here today, we stand here because of those war crimes. We are here because of U.S. genocide. The legacy of that history lives in this landscape, and it lives in us. Today, Gaza is both half a world away and it is right here. Today, we stand in Minnesota Makoche in solidarity with every single human who was ever killed for land. Today, we stand in Minnesota Makoche in solidarity with every single human who was ever killed because of where or who they were born. Today, we stand in Minnesota Makoche in solidarity with every single human who was ever hurt or wounded or killed because of hate. Today, we acknowledge and we mourn genocide that the United States committed against the Dakota in all of our names. And we know that just as the past lives in us today, so does the future. Just as the choices that some guys made 150 years ago are here today, so too will our choices, our voices live 150 years from now. Here in Gaza, in the better world we know we can create together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you, Ray. And now I'd like to just ground our group together in the following 3 elements for the evening. Firstly, we acknowledge the horrors occurring now in Gaza and the West Bank, including forced famine, scholasticide, ecocide, and direct targeting of journalists, as well as healthcare workers and their systems. We work tonight to end this. Secondly, we recognize the horrors families and neighbors are enduring right here as a result of state violence, particularly of our Latinx and Hmong relatives for being forcibly separated dramatically from their families. We work tonight to end this. Third, we recognize the students and healthcare workers here and across the world under institutional repression for resisting genocide and insisting on protecting Palestinian and BIPOC life against imperial capitalism. We aim this evening to be a space of community in solidarity with repressed voices. We insist that we keep us safe and truly mean it when we say all of us or none of us. And I would now like to welcome our first poet. Sagirah Shahid is a pushcart prize-nominated African-American Muslim poet and performance artist from Minneapolis, Minnesota. In 2025, she was selected as a finalist for the city of Minneapolis's poet laureate position. Sagirah's poetry and prose are published widely, and she has received a handful of awards and fellowships for her writing, including from the Loft Literary Center, the Minnesota Center for Book Arts, Strive Publishing, Twin Cities Media Alliance, the St. Paul Almanac, Muslim Advocates, and the Shangri Museum of Islamic Art, Culture, and Design for Dubai. Please welcome Sagirah. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. They told me I could recite for however long I wanted. I brought some longer poems, but I might do some shorter ones and I'll be louder. But I wanted to start because we did talk about the genocide that happened here, Minnesota Makoche. So I'm going to actually recite a poem about this land, Minnesota Makoche. The land where water reflects the skies, solidarity between the sky and the river, what I look like not evaporating my fears for you, June said. I said I loved you and I wanted genocide to stop. We will become monsoons if we have to, for you, love, or loving, oh requirements of my shattered heart. Fly your kites with earth beneath your toes and wind above your curls. Oh, persistent little laughters. May the bombs of my cruel country never reach you from the Mississippi to the Mediterranean Sea. So I'm gonna read a little fragmented essay that I wrote actually in 2023. And I just wanted to revisit that because I think as an American, we're implicated in all of this always. And just revisiting like where my head was at. And yeah, I'll just go into it. It's called Against Genocide, Fragments of Protest Poems for Palestine. One thing I do want to say is like at the time, I didn't want to name the occupation. Like I didn't want to legitimize it by naming it, so I erased it. But in the purposes of this reading of the essay, I'm going to call it Is Not Real. 2 a.m., Thursday, November 16th, 2023, 11,000 Palestinians slaughtered by Is Not Real. My body is in ruins. My body is a protest on the edge of what living ought to be. Had my eyes only the skills to unsee in Minneapolis from my iPhone, I watch premature babies in Gaza flinch and cry out in their exhausted baby cries from their shattered beds without incubators. Because Israel is not real, has cut off their access to electricity. As it continues to bomb them, I can't sleep, so instead I turn to poems or poems turn to me. I am in an altered state of becoming what I read. And then I should also say that I recite poems throughout. So this is a poem from Palestinian resistance poet Sama al-Qassam and it's Enemy of the Sun. It's an excerpt from it. You may put out the light in my eyes. You may deprive me of my mother's kisses. You may curse my father, my people. You may deprive my children of a smile and its life necessities. You may fool my friends with a borrowed face. You may build walls of hatred around me. You may glue my eyes to humiliations, O enemy of the sun. But I shall not compromise. And to the last pulse in my veins, I shall resist, O enemy of the sun. Sama al-Qassam, Enemy of the Sun. 9:54 a.m. Monday, October 23rd, 2023, 5,087 Palestinians slaughtered by Is Not Real. Fellowship. Synonyms may include companionship, may include community of interest, may include camaraderie. I email my fellowship cohort about a global strike for Palestine that I participated in the previous Friday. I email them and I tell them how I skipped my presentation to instead join the Twin Cities chapter of Jewish Voices for Peace to protest in front of the DFL office. I do not share how we took to the streets, blocking off the ramp of a highway and circling each other with our chants, with our homemade signs, a comrade to my left holding on up the other end of a Palestinian flag with me. I do not share how I cried as the crowd sang, "Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine." And how the comrade, the friend, seeing my tears, wove an arm into mine, holding me and the flag closer. I email my fellowship cohort, and I fumble through grief and rage, and I fumble through these fleeting spurts of optimism, and I leave them a link to jewishvoicesforpeace.org instead. I'm timid instead. I ask that they follow the actions detailed in the link and release public statements condemning genocide. And perhaps because we are all Black people emerging into leadership, and perhaps because I believe in the profound power of collective dua and the collective dua of my formerly enslaved African ancestors, I list as many of the names of historic Black leaders in solidarity with Palestine. I can't remember many, but they emerge to the forefront of my scattered mind, my shattered memory: Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Angela Davis, Muhammad Ali, James Baldwin, June Jordan. There is no chance that we will fall apart. There are no chance. There is no chance. There are no parts. June Jordan, poem number 2 on Bell Thurlam's, I can't speak, New Physicality of Long Distance Love. 3:47 p.m., Friday, August 8th, 2014. 2,310 Palestinians slaughtered by Is Not Real. And an email Someone who will become a friend in the years to come sends the members of a writing collective I've joined an invitation. In the email, the not yet friend invites us to participate in a reading. Ongoing organizing event, Sunday, August 17th, at the for the Children of Palestine event at the Parkway Theater, 4 p.m. It's a fundraiser for Amira, led by Tariq Rasuli. I don't know it yet, but because I haven't met him. But in a few months, Tariq, the Iraqi Palestinian American musician with his long pools of electric guitarist hair, the frequent looper of dissonant sounds through his keyboard and synthesizer machine, his frequent anti-war protest marshal, holder and gatherer of DIY spaces, he and I will become friends, comrades. We will share a kind of fellowship. Brief co-conspirators during the early Trump years, Tariq looping his poems for Palestine, poems for Muslims, poems for Black and brown and queer and indigenous folks into his guitar with a quick kick. In December of 2018, Tariq died. Suicide. It was nearly a month after his 28th birthday. Sometimes there are protests across Minneapolis. Varied geographies that still remind me of him. Cedar Riverside, near the Indie bookstore. Downtown Minneapolis in front of the federal building. Lake Street in Chicago. Sometimes I see the all too familiar neo-yellow vest of a protest marshal and think, my goodness. And then I remember. There are a sea of people in my life now who are friends, who are here, who protest, who march, who chant, who loop songs, who loop poems, who loop into each other's arms, who repeat slogans, who resist, who cling to each other's bodies. We share this fellowship. We see the horrors in each other's eyes. We see the details that are never numbers but beloveds, trapped in it, murdered by is not real. I see the profound grief haunting, hunting, hurting us each with each name, with each unnamed. My body doesn't know how to make sense of any of this, so instead I focus on this poem by Mahmoud Darwish, Think of Others. As you prepare your graphics, think of others. Do not forget the pigeon's food. As you conduct your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who seek peace. As you pay your water bill, think of others, those who are nursed by clouds. As you return home to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep. As you liberate yourself in metaphor, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say, if only I were a candle in the dark. Oh, thank you. Thank you for thinking of, no, I'm good. And I'll just do a couple of poems because now I feel like I spent a lot of time. So I'll do a couple of poems. But I think it was just, I was revisiting that today and I was like, I'll read that. And I'll do a poem because I am a part of the public sector union and I work in healthcare. And I'm so, are there kids here? Yes, okay. So I'm just angry about what our tax dollars are doing. So this is called Death in Texas. We needed love, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed food. We needed affordable housing. We needed healthcare. We needed loan-free educations, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed fair wages. We needed rest. We needed our families. We needed reparations, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed clean drinking water for Flint, for Mississippi. We needed abolition, community control of the police, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed better food, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed to survive childbirth, to survive doctor visits, to survive so many things, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed justice. We needed to not always have to prove our qualifications and credentials, and for white people to stop stealing from us. We needed white women to stop harassing us in public spaces, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed to not always have to prove our own innocence. Even in death, they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed our fathers, our brothers, decriminalized. We needed the police to stop slaughtering us. We needed our history taught in schools, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed our children to not be criminalized. We needed our books, our poetry to be read in schools. We needed tenderness, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed our abusers held accountable. We needed peace of mind without devices, without having to buy their products, but they gave us wars, bombs, guns. We needed fruit-bearing trees, nectar, oilless oceans, the night sky, without smog, to see the stars, to ponder, to count the distances between Neptune and Nebulous. We needed rose water and olive groves and pomegranates, crushed pistachios and sweet creams and laughter and drums and old songs we caressed before a fire's flicker. We needed the smallest hairs on the back of a lover's neck. They gave us wars, bombs, guns. A few more, and then I'll make room for our, oh, thank you. Let's see. I call this one Palestine. A lot of people don't realize that it is not real. It's involved in so many atrocities all over the world. From like the corrupt diamond, there's a corrupt diamond industry in Congo that they're involved in. They're involved with a lot of the atrocities, either at a distance or directly in parts of the world, like both Sudan and South Sudan, right? They're just all over, just oppressing so many people, and also genociding Palestine in real time, and we're watching it. So this poem is a solidarity poem for Black folks, but also thinking about this interconnectedness between our struggles and the struggles of people in Palestine. This is the day I smashed diamonds with my fist. The day I wiped the blood off my hands for Congo, for Palestine, you are not alone. This is the day I told Sudan, Torah. It was 2019, and you were out there in them streets because you stood up on a white car, like the youth of my people stood up on police cars. LA, Rodney King uprising overlaid upon your white gown, gold earring, as you chanted, revolution for Sudan, for Palestine. You are not alone, and this is the day I rip chains off my incarcerated siblings, the day I give my children laughter instead of pipelines to prisons for my incarcerated siblings. For Palestine, you are not alone, and this is the day I celebrate the first African nation in the Caribbean that sent the enslaving, colonizing French back home to their armpits of a nation. For Haiti, for Palestine, you are not alone. And for the youth of DC, and for the youth of the Galilee, and for the West Bank and of Gaza, tweeting Ferguson instructions on how to resist yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the next day. You are not alone, my dearly beloveds. You are not alone, my dearly beloveds. See us, see them. We are intertwined. Okay. How are we all feeling? Are you tired of me ranting? Okay, just a couple more, maybe just two more for myself, and then one more thought. And then I'll get out of your way. I want to recite this poem because I've been thinking a lot about like what do words do when I get angry. I spend a lot of time thinking about words in poetry, and I'm really frustrated with the poetry community. So there's a poet Moksab Abu Taha. And in the early part of this particular escalation, he kind of, he keeps a lot of us informed of a lot of things. He's an amazing poet. But he asked, I think this was in 2023, it may have been in 2004, but he was like, where are the poets? Why are you all not writing about Palestine? And so then I started writing these poems to Mossab and to Rafat and to other folks. But I guess I'll just read this poem and then I'll do the other one and then I'll get out of here with. You know how ragged I've been. I told myself, enough with the birds, the severed sinew. They were never lyrical devices for me, they were real, and that my mind needed feathered weaponry to wade through all of this. I'm gesturing to you all. Because I know that I know this is the wrong poem for this title, but they spoke to me, one night belonging to the birds and the next belonging to my own raggedness. I'm not poet enough to paint adequate pictures with these handful of words, with this constraining of sounds. You know how ragged I've been. I know the rules and I don't care. My mind is on Gaza and I'd gladly fail for them if it meant they could live and have self-determination. I'm no longer a poet, I'm a witness of this written record, this documentation of a baby's smiling face, of a baby's decomposing remains. I think often of the little girl named after a flower, with her pink gown, her sparkly tiara, and how her mother, a poet, named her Orchid, and how in an article, her mother only uses the present tense to describe the brief life of her beloved orchid. I thought about writing a poem for them. Poet mother, murdered daughter. Thought I named the poem Orchid, or A Brief History of Orchids, or The Sparkle, and some measured research in etymology, environmental origins woven through or listed out like an image recipe. But that felt so inadequate and cruel. And as of writing this, Al Shifa Hospital is under siege. I can't find poetry or get sense of shape and sound and language that reflects like hubcaps or abandoned vehicles. And then Jamal, I love your poem, so please forgive me. This poem is in response to another poet as well. His name is Jamal May. But forgive my use of your words as this clumsy vehicle to express a grief too expansive for me to stitch together my own, even all language falls for me. So there's no poetry here. And maybe that's a good thing. And maybe that's the best I can do with my own desperate attempt to answer Mossab's call to all of us poets when the IOF kidnapped him. We thought he had been murdered. When he survived and asked us, why aren't the poets writing poems for Gaza? I responded, so here I am amongst the millions, or perhaps trillions, of collective howls, of an army of words, of an arsenal of sounds, beneath a treacherous moon, because there's always a moon. And now you know it. My untethered trick. I'm not really poet enough for any of this. It was Palestine's Mother's Day when I read the article about Orchid and her mother, her poet mother. And the days since, the IOF soldiers that were holding Al Shifa Hospital hostage have now been documented. I think I'm going to skip this just because it's really violent, but you know what they did in Al Shifa. Or maybe I won't, I don't know. I want to take care of you all too, but they were very violent. Maybe I won't finish this poem, but I do want to have you all say her name because it's so beautiful. So you can repeat after me. And all of the names, it's not just one child or one, and also the men and non-binary folks and everyone. But can you say Orchid's name with me on 3? 1, 2, 3. Orchid. Thank you. I'm going to stop. I'm gonna read Rafat Al-Arir's poem, If I Must Die. Then I'm gonna read 2 poems that I wrote in response to that, and they're very different. And I'm not gonna pause in between and then I'll get out of your way. Because it's time, I think I've been here for a while. I have not paid attention to time, I'm sorry. If I Must Die, by Rafat Al-Arir. If I must die, you must live. to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite you have made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment, an angel is here, bringing back love. But I must die. Let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. And if I must live, and this year was not a year, and the kites were not angels, I held up my fist, wishing I could hold you. The tears did not become rain, though you thirsted, and the soldier set himself ablaze, and the fire was everywhere, and the fire was inside, and the flames were not a dove, and the flames were not a mother's screams. Please understand, if I must live, there's blood everywhere, and the flowers scattered across the dirt road, and the blackened eyes of the orphaned girl, and the cold, cold words of the president you voted for, and the cooling body of the starved infant. How cruel then to go on living as the president licks his vanilla ice cream cone, as the bombs and snipers he sent snatch away life and living, and to live like this to that angel parting that cloud. We are no longer alive. Record that we were not hogs. We went up towards the flames with our palms up, with our hearts chanting, if I must live, if I must live, to tell your story, let it be a sunrise, a soft smile, an opened citrus, let it be a love song, a brave poem, a raised fist, a brief kiss, the protest of clouds against toward winds, if I must live, to tell your story, to collect your things, to write your name, to repeat your words, then you, Rafat, are still alive, and all of us, and us the living. We will raise up these kites we have made in your honor, and when they fly, and when they soar defiantly across every corner of this earth, tell the angels, our fight for you will never die.
Thank you so very much. Absolutely incredible. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you Christine Harb. Christine Harb is a queer Palestinian Christian living in the Twin Cities. She was born in Iowa and raised between the Midwest and the West Bank. Christine lived in Ramallah, Palestine for 5 years under military occupation and fled to the United States with her family after Israel began bombing the West Bank. She has a master's of community and behavioral health and is now an attending physician in family medicine with a special focus on reproductive justice, gender affirming care, social medicine, and global health. Please welcome Christine Harb.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I only have a few poems. I am not a traditional poet, and I'm pulling out every poem I could possibly find because I don't want to keep repeating the same ones. So these are a couple of dusty old poems with a new one that I wrote. So the first one is called Let the Ladder Fall. It's about white liberals, whom I write about very often because I'm mad. And basically discussing what real solidarity looks like. Let the ladder fall. So what is the solution, you ask me? How dare you? How dare you ask me what the solution is to the problems you created while simultaneously denying me the power to do anything about it? It's like pouring salt into my wounds. You now place the burden on me to clean up the bloody mess you made when we both know that this blood is mine and we both know that you're the one who spilt it. So what is the solution, you ask, while patting yourself on the back, thinking you've created a space for my voice, the voice of the silence to be heard, when in reality, all you've done is create a space for me to waste my time and energy educating you about the problems that you created and the solution to these problems and why we should implement these solutions, because I'm a human being who deserves to live with the same dignity and respect as you, all the while my voice is being sucked up into the empty vacuum of your complacency. My lips are moving, but no one can hear me because sound doesn't travel in an empty vacuum. And since you can't hear me, maybe I'll mime it out for you in a show of charades, but in the end, we both know that you are the performer. You wear a Free Palestine t-shirt and throw your fist in the air and call it a day, when what you really need to do if you want to build a new world is tear down the systems that built you up. Because the only reason you've been able to build your ladder so tall and climb it so high is because your ladder is built from the bones of my ancestors. And if who you are is based on how high you go, then you are nothing without us. You are a prisoner to your own oppressive systems, and my suffering is a reflection of your ugly history. Neither of us are really free. So what is the solution, you ask me? I don't need to tell you the solution. Pay me in power and I'll show you. You need to understand that you will lose something in this fight. You need to accept that things will never be the same, and you need to trust that when you finally choose to let the ladder fall, we will be the ones to catch you. Okay, so the second one. The second one is called Flowers. It was a reflection on a period of time when I was incredibly sick. I couldn't digest any food. I was in and out of hospitals. For the healthcare workers here, I had a BMI of 15. I had to apply for apply to be disabled so that I could get accommodations for my testing because I couldn't stop running to the bathroom, and almost dropped out of medical school. And so I do talk about starvation in this, and thought I was starved to death, which I'm just mentioning now because it feels offensive to even mention, but it was my reality. And I'm going to read this because my final poem is also about starvation. Anger was too acidic to digest the thick molasses of my grief, a grief that compounded as it was passed down from my mother and my mother's mother, pressurized and set aflame by years of repeated displacement in war. This grief became as dense as diamonds and as heavy as lead as it sat in the pit of my stomach, so heavy that I could no longer eat. I became thinner and thinner as my body withered and became malnourished, rejecting the very things that sustained it. My body could not carry the weight of our shared trauma. Grief had become a physical disease, and I was trying to use anger to cure it. But the anger eroded my organs and set them on fire. I was convinced that it was only a matter of time before I would starve to death. But when I thought I was dying, I asked my body a question, something I had never done before. Because it had never occurred to me that my body contained within it its own intrinsic consciousness. Perhaps this illness was not a punishment, but rather an invitation and request. I asked it, "What do you want from me?" and listened intently to its deafening silence. I waited and waited, fearing that it would never respond. And then, one day, I heard it whisper faintly, "I want you to cry." So that's exactly what I did. I cried and cried and cried and cried. I cried every day for years. I cried for my grandparents who became refugees when they were only children. I cried for my mother who survived multiple wars. I cried for my father whose dreams of return were thwarted by occupation. I cried for the children and mothers and fathers of Palestine, for the ancient olive trees that were uprooted and the beloved homes that were demolished, for the martyrs who were murdered and the endless funerals that have now become part and parcel of our culture, a culture of resistance and a culture of mourning. And I cried for myself, For the childhood I never got to have, the acceptance I never got to feel, the constant sensation of being unwanted and rejected not only by the occupiers of my homeland, but by a culture of homophobia that taught me shame as my first language. I baptized myself with my own tears, watering it so that one day, perhaps, I baptized my grief with my own tears, watering it so that one day, perhaps, it would grow into something beautiful. I resigned myself to my body's boundaries, learning the language of pain and responding to it with empathy, caring for my body the same way I would care for a loved one. And then one day, I could eat again. I don't know when it really happened, but the diamonds in my gut dissolved and grew into flowers. My soul became a beautiful garden, one that I continue to water with my tears whenever my body beckons. Grief is not something we can escape or avoid. It is something we must embrace, because grief is ultimately the price of love, and some loves must be watered for a lifetime. Okay. I have two more things. The next thing is from a project me and Lars here, this cameraman, worked on. It's in the Intifada zine, and the reason why I want to read from it is because Lars knows someone in Gaza. Her name is Fairuz. She's a 23-year-old mother of 4 who's actively surviving for her life right now, and they're all experiencing starvation. I'm going to expand this because I noticed people are looking at the screen, so that way you can have a close-up of my face and everyone else's face. So anyways, I wanted to read her excerpts, which were largely Instagram posts, so that to explain my next poem, which is inspired by her writing. The zines are all free. They're on the table if you want a copy. The only thing is that there is a QR code on the healthcare portion for Heal Palestine if you did want to donate money. So her poems are mostly statements and they're scattered, but I'll go through all of them. I am from Gaza. From childhood, I've grown on your land, raised by you, patient with pain, yet my soil remains proud. For you, I'll write history about what happened to me. I am Gaza. I set an example with my steadfastness. Our ongoing pain is what we live with today. War has begun to lose its meaning. The world has grown accustomed to seeing our death, our torn bodies, our wounds, our oppression, our anguish, our hunger. What has happened to us shows that the Arab world lost its dignity. Its honor has aged, its greatness and strength have faded. To whom shall we complain? O Lord, everyone suffers from loss. The pain runs deep and wounds are severe. How can the pain ever subside? O Lord, the world has dimmed in our eyes. We see no light. Whenever we close our eyes, death is all we see. Who will bring back our friends? O Lord, those who have left, and those who remain are scattered. Israel bombed every place that united us. How can we reunite again? O Lord, we are devastated by what we have been through. Patience has failed us. We plead for your support. Our strength has faltered, but yet our resolve has not weakened. From you comes patience, victory, and our wish, the return to everything we cherish, and above all, to you, O Lord. Displacement isn't just leaving your home. It is about leaving a part of your soul behind. It is about waking up in the morning, not knowing where you'll sleep at night. It's about trying to appear strong in front of your children while you're broken inside. It's an indescribable pain, but we live it every day and keep quiet because even talking is exhausting. Wars have taken years from our lives. Isn't it enough? We have aged 1,000 years in just 5 months, but our certainty has grown stronger that God alone is capable of everything. God is sufficient for us, and He is the best guardian. A person will not attain what they love until they are patient with much of what they hate, and let them know that every burning beginning has a bright ending, inshallah. So, this next poem, which I wrote and finished an hour ago, is called Diary of a Dying Sun. I have written poems about hope because I never wish to speak despair into a room, but it is performative. Of course, we always want to have hope, but I think it would be foolish to ignore the despair that many of us are feeling. And despair is the absence of hope. So this is about that. Oh, and then despair isn't all bad. I feel like despair is a place to meet God. So this is what the poem is about. Diary of a Dying Sun. Despair is a black hole, dense with singularities of grief that crush the soul into submission. Space stretches and time dilates. 22 months feels like 77 years, feels like an eternity. There is nothing here, only absence, absence of light, absence of hope. Can God live in a place like this? It almost makes you forget that a black hole was once a massive, blazing star. Collarbones and sunken eyes fill our feeds that show us mothers who cannot feed their children, babies with bloated bellies and vacant stares, tightly embraced by wailing mothers, cheekbones sharp as glass, jawlines that cut through hijabs, weeping over their lifeless bodies, their big brown eyes as empty as space. Despair is a black hole and power is a poison. Arab leaders keep quiet because their masters tell them to. Silence is now their largest export. It's the only way to keep the money flowing as rapidly as the rivers of blood. Passive language in the headlines talk about famine as if it's an act of God. Articles filled with everything but accountability. From east to west, humanity is as empty as the stomachs of Gaza's children. Where is God in all of this? Despair is a black hole, power is a poison, and Gaza is a dying sun. A sun is a star, is an endless cycle of nuclear fusions and explosions. The atomic bomb was created to imitate it. Little stars shower down and light up Gaza's horizon in a spectacle of massive destruction. But what happens to a sun when she runs out of fuel? Her solar body cannot maintain the nuclear fusions necessary to sustain herself. She eventually runs out of energy and violently collapses into her iron core, causing a massive explosion, a supernova. Her core becomes infinitely dense, cannibalizing her, gravity pulling her fire inward until there is nothing left but black. Even physics starts to change within black holes in ways we don't yet understand. Rules and conventions disappear as quickly as light. Some could call these physical phenomena magic, others miracles. Maybe God lives in a cemetery of dead stars. These men know nothing of power. What happens to a father when he runs out of food? Fuel. What happens to a child? What happens to a hospital, a neighborhood? Light disappear as energy is lost. Bodies cannot maintain the biochemical processes to sustain them. They eventually run out of energy and collapse as their physiology violently deteriorates, cannibalizing them and digestive enzymes until there is nothing left but skeletal corpses and dark, empty buildings. What happens to a people experiencing starvation, and what happens to the people imposing it? Is their conscience as atrophic and emaciated as the bodies of their prey, cannibalizing itself in the enzymes of a psychotic nationalism that once starved millions of their ancestors? What's another death to a cult that was born through massive destruction? Despair is a black hole, power is a poison, and Gaza is a dying sun, dense with singularities of grief that crush the soul into submission, pulling our spirit inward until there is nothing left but God and magic.
Wow, thank you so much. Before I welcome our featured speaker this evening, I'd like to introduce our musicians who will be performing immediately following our main talk this evening. Tarek Abouid is a Palestinian American musician dedicated to preserving and sharing the musical, and actually make sure you like wave your hand around or something so people can, hi, woohoo! Tarek is a Palestinian American musician dedicated to preserving and sharing the musical traditions of the Arab world. He plays traditional percussion such as durbeke, def, and davul, as well as the reed instrument mijwiz, and enjoys singing beloved classics by Kulthum, Ferouz, and Abdel Halim. He also performs Debke dance, bringing audiences into the communal spirit of his heritage. Tarek has been active in local arts and cultural projects and serves on the board of New Arab American Theater Works to celebrate Palestinian heritage and amplify Arab voices in the arts. Next, we have Harry Shalmeers. Harry. Hi, Harry. Harry Shalmeers is a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and music teacher in St. Paul. He has held leadership positions at McPhail Center for Music, McNally Smith, and Berklee College of Music, and now teaches at the St. Paul Conservatory. Thank you. We have Ham Beals Romero. Hi, Ham. Ham Beals Romero is a multi-instrumentalist new to the cities. He is a proud member of Brass Solidarity and enjoys playing guitar, flute, piccolo, and saxophone. Taking a break from school, he looks forward to making connections with fellow musicians and community members to continue being a voice in the fight towards the liberation of all oppressed people. And then we have Rinna Kinney. Hi, Rinna. Rinna Kinney is a violinist, board-certified music therapist, and proud member of Healthcare Workers for Palestine. She plays with a traditional Irish music group and with the Brass Solidarity Band, and she has brought her musical skills to various Healthcare Workers for Palestine events. The song medley we will hear tonight is her first major work of hopefully many more to come. And now, it is my profound honor to introduce you to Dr. Asya Khader. Before I invite her up, Dr. Asya Khader is a child and adolescent psychiatrist censored by Prairie Care Newport after pressure from JCRC and a clear example of anti-Palestinian racism. I'd like to share just a bit about this past year. I was lucky enough to participate in that amazing continuing education talk that Dr. Q gave last summer and was one of nearly 100 positive responses that were given that day. In the following hours and days, they were swift with it. Prairie Care not only apologized for the content of the talk, but also refused to release this urgently needed educational content. We created a petition demanding its release with over 1,000 signatures, held rallies and press conferences at the state capitol, and a year later, another 1,000 emails were sent to Prairie Care leadership to demand its release. I'd like to direct you to copies of the Mondoise article that Dr. Q was able to create. Tonight is the first public delivery of the band talk since last summer. Because the knowledge to care for our Palestinian and BIPOC families belongs to the people. Medical institutions do not own our voices or lived experiences to then ban them. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Asya Khader.